Hello and welcome to How to Invest. In today's video, I'm going to be giving an update about my personal portfolio, what kind of journey I've been on since the beginning of this year, and how I am currently positioned in this market to hopefully make the most coming out of this recent Iran war pullback. A little bit about me. I am a stock analyst for a holding company with several million of assets under management, as well as my own personal six-figure portfolio. We are not certified financial advisors. This video is not financial advice. All investments carry risk. You are solely responsible for your investments. We encourage everyone to do their own due diligence and research. We have a high risk tolerance and a long investment horizon. This video reflects our opinions only at the time of recording and are for entertainment and educational purposes only. First off, where was I at the beginning of this year? At the beginning of this year, you can see I actually reached an all-time high in my portfolio on January 12th at $161,000. That obviously felt really good, starting from around 90,000. I had really good returns at that point. But something to keep in mind is the market is volatile, especially when you are investing in individual stocks. So about a month later, this is where I was at. February 27th, my portfolio dropped to under $50,000. So it got cut by 2/3 in the matter of a little over a month. That was where my portfolio bottomed out. So actually you could tell, this was way before kind of the peak escalation in Iran. The market, or at least the stocks I owned, had already pretty much bottomed. A big reason for this major volatility is because I use margin, which is something I do want to talk about today because whilst it did boost my returns, right? A big reason I grew from 90,000 to 161,000 within a matter of 6 months-ish, it was because of my use of margin. But in the same way that it helps you gain more, it also helps you lose a lot more, a lot quicker. And it does not feel good to be at this point, where you're at $48,000, you were at 160,000, less a little over a month ago, and you don't know if that's the bottom or not, right? Now, looking back, it does look like that was the bottom, but in that moment, you really don't know if that was the bottom or not. It's a very, very emotionally difficult. I have used margin in the past. A couple of years ago, I used it. I was all in on Tesla at that point. And wasn't really the best idea in terms of evaluation for Tesla at that moment. The stock had been trading sideways and it was Christmas time and the stock was in a pullback and I was getting margin called on Christmas, which felt really, really bad. But at that point, I really didn't know about investment. I didn't really know why I was investing in Tesla. I was really investing in it at the kind of advice of my brother. I hadn't done my own underwriting, which is so important and why I encourage you guys to do that. It felt totally awful. It ruined my whole holiday, to be completely honest. But yeah, that really turned me off to margin. I mean, I basically went from investing in individual stocks to just investing in indexes for a while. And then recently, I got hired by my brother to be a stock analyst. I really did my work to kind of educate myself on how to actually underwrite my own investments. And so I felt way, way more confident in my ability to pick stocks. And that was really reinforced by this massive journey I went on from going from 90,000 to 161,000. And again, my brother, he's just so bullish all the time. I started using some margin to bolster my returns. It looked like everything was going so well, and it felt really, really good. I actually felt like I knew what I was doing this time in terms of like why I owned the stocks I owned and all that. And then we hit this massive pullback. And this time was a lot different because I did understand the stocks I owned. I understood that the market was really just being irrational at the time, and that the companies I owned were still solid, still are solid. My portfolio is very similar to what it was in February when it was at the bottom. So I continued to hold. In fact, I actually added margin through this pullback as my portfolio dropped from 160 to 48,000. I was increasing the amount of margin I was using actually. And eventually I did get margin called a little bit. I got margin called out of a couple of shares. It wasn't really a big deal. The positions I sold were more of like speculative positions that I may have not should have not been in the first place. So I didn't really mind it. The other position I sold out of was oddity, and that was after I lost trust in management because they did not warn us about the fact that their whole business was basically reliant on an algorithm, and the algorithm changed and it destroyed their whole business, and that I didn't realize how important operational leverage was, and that they weren't really getting on any operational leverage. So I sold that position as well, and that kind of kept me out of margin calls selling those positions, which were both fine to sell. The other one I sold was BioStim. I do think there might be a good potential return in that, but I just didn't really understand it enough to really justify having it in my portfolio. So, I kind of lucked out in that sense that the positions I was able to exit, I probably were good for me to exit anyways. Maybe that's a little copium. I don't think it is. I think in hindsight that exiting those positions were good moves. And those kind of coincided with my margin call. So I really didn't have to sell any shares of any companies that I really wanted to hold for the long term. But the emotional stress of this was very, very negative. And there is a story of someone that should be really famous but isn't because of their desire to, compound faster. They didn't have the patience. And that is someone related to Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett. There was actually a third partner who actually was using margin, and because of that got zeroed out, and now he's not in the history books anymore. This story comes from Oak Tree Capital, so I'm not exactly sure if it's 100% reliable, but regardless, it does prove the point that someone like Warren Buffett, he's worth, I think, over $150 billion. He did it through patiently compounding. And that is the thing about the stock market that I really realized through this whole drawdown is that patience is the key to unlocking incredible returns over the long term. You can bolster your gains a bit with margin. Maybe you go from getting 30 or 40% annualized returns to 80%, maybe even 100% annualized returns over 10, 15 years. But if in year 10 or year 15, you get zeroed out, well, guess what your annualized returns are now over the last 15 years? It's minus 100%. So I have not deleveraged yet because this is obviously not the right time to deleverage. Deleveraging at the bottom doesn't make sense. So I'm going to go over my plan to completely deleverage as we pull out of this. But first, I want to go over my portfolio. Now, so we are still not quite back to where we were in January, and my portfolio has bounced up and down quite a bit. We went from 48,000 I was around 90,000 back to almost 100,000. Then I dropped back to the 50,000-ish, and now we're sitting at 76,000. Net liquidity, total market value is 228,000. And that is because I am using $152,000 of margin. So currently I am 300% invested, 100% of my own money, and 200% on margin. I do not encourage anyone to do this. This has been an incredible learning journey. Someone like Jeremy has also tried margin in the past, and he has learned his lesson. He's like, do not use margin. You can bolster your gains for sure, but it is a double-edged sword. And I think longevity is what I'm realizing is so much more important. Compounding is, the eighth wonder of the world. And you can have it be your partner if you're just patient. Whereas if you use margin, you have the ability to be zeroed out, and that destroys your longevity, and compounding being your ally over the long run. So yeah, I'll go over the plan in a second. But first, my positions and how my positions kind of stack up to what our future expected returns are. So Lemonade actually doesn't have the highest future expected returns in our spreadsheet, but it is my largest position. Now, the reason for that is because of the qualitative. So the quantitatives, the modeling, those type of things, the future returns projections, doesn't necessarily say it's the best, but there's so many qualitative things, the management, the business model, AI tailwind to this company that makes me believe in it so much more than any of the other companies. I am so happy to have it as my largest position. I feel very confident in their ability to execute and continue to do the growth that we're projecting in the modeling. So that's why you have to not only look at things quantitative, but also have this qualitative understanding of the companies you sorry, excuse me, of the companies you own. So that is why Lemonade is my largest position. Hims is my second largest position, partly because of the qualitative. It is, let me show the returns. So yeah, basically, I own these 6 companies here and then Better. So I'll talk about Better a bit in a second. But basically, all of these are within the margin of error of each other. They're all between basically a 7 and a 10x, which for our modeling, I think is definitely within the margin of error. So I've really positioned based on the qualitatives of the business, secular tailwinds in the economy that I think is going to, be a good tailwind for that company versus maybe some having a little bit of headwinds, positioning them a bit smaller. So keep that in mind. And you could see something like, oh, maybe this stock over here, Space, which has a 27x. So why isn't that in my portfolio, right? Because the quantitatives are really good for our base case, but the qualitatives and the bear case says that this company might go bankrupt. It has some non-founder CEO running it. We really don't know what demand for these tickets look like. So when we look at these quantitative numbers, this projections in terms of the returns of these companies, you have to keep in mind that there's a bunch of qualitatives that we have in our head. And that's why every time I do one of these videos, we have the disclaimer where we encourage you to go do your own research. Like, you have to underwrite your own investments. And especially when there's a big pullback, hopefully you're not using margin, but it's still going to be hard to not sell out of those positions when everything's down and everyone's negative and everyone's saying we're going to go down another 20-50%. Well, you don't want to keep losing money. But if you understand the qualitatives of the business and maybe you've done your own projections, your own modeling, you understand what future growth, the future like fundamental growth is going to look like. That's going to help you so much if you understand that you've done your own research to hold through the volatility, because volatility is the price you pay for outperforming the market. So keep talking about a couple more of the positions. So yeah, second is Hims. Again, that is because of qualitatives. Better is my third largest position. It is on par with most of the other companies after it in terms of the qualitatives as far as I view it, but then it's a much larger position now because it's on par qualitative, because the quantitative says it is such a better company to own in terms of future returns. So now this is when you do qualitatives, and if qualitatives are equal, then you look at quantitatives. Now, if quantitatives are way different, if a company with really good qualitatives maybe is only going to compound at 30% for the next 5 years, but a company with slightly less good qualitative qualities is going to compound 100% year over year for the next 5 years. Okay, well, maybe it's worth taking the slightly higher risk of owning a lower quality business when it looks like growth is just going to be absolutely insane. So you have to keep all those things in mind. And again, this is all based on my own personal kind of risk tolerance, my own personal philosophy of risk versus reward. And that's why you can't just watch these videos and then go make an investment based off of it. You can't just go copy my portfolio, because you have a different investment philosophy because of the different books you've read than me, or the different earnings calls that you've listened to, or other financial YouTubers that you watch and the advice that they give, So this is so important to go get multiple opinions, read multiple books from other expert fund managers, go listen to yourself, to the company's earnings calls, all that. So, but yeah, basically Klarna, Duolingo, and Path all have a pretty similar forward return in our spreadsheet, and our qualitatives are pretty similar as well. And I would say the qualitative for Better is also pretty similar, but the forward returns are just so much better that it's a bit slightly larger position. Another reason it's not a larger position is because, unfortunately, the margin requirement on Better is much higher than these other companies. So it doesn't allow me to position it larger in my portfolio, which is yet another reason to, argue against margin. Like, you can't actually control the portfolio the way you want to. Just silly things like that. And then lastly, we have Path coming in here as my seventh and smallest position. And that is because the qualitatives are slightly worse. Mainly, it's no longer founder run. And then the forward returns are also not quite as good, being the lowest forward returns Qualitative. So instead of being a $25,000 position-ish, it is a $20,000 position. So yeah, these are the market values. These are the percentage of net liquidity. You can pause and look at it, position size, my average price. And then this is also showing the daily change of the day of the recording, the unrealized profit or loss in some cases, and the unrealized P&L percentage. So you can see that some of these positions, especially something like Shift 4, I'm pretty far down on, my average price being $72 a share, and the current price, the last price was $46 a share. So I'm down 35% on that stock. But because I know the future returns, especially because our spreadsheet changes the forward returns based on the current price, I have to not think of it as a sunk cost and say, okay, if I was making this position today, would I want to hold it going forward? So I'm basically ignoring this P&L and saying, okay, going from this dollar amount, would I want to today invest $20,000 in this stock as my seventh position? And you have to ask yourself that. You have to basically say, okay, if I had all the money I had invested and I was going to reallocate my portfolio, I hadn't made any previous investments, how would I position? That's a really good kind of scenario to run yourself through to see, do you actually feel comfortable with how your portfolio is positioned? So yeah, talking about all that, that's the current thing. And this is my plan to go to zero margin. Now that I've realized I do not want to have margin, it doesn't mean that I just instantly deleverage now. Because I do understand that we are in the middle of a correction and right now feels the worst. So I'm actually taking a contrary take and saying, this is actually not the time to deleverage. I did leverage up slightly higher as we went through this pullback. But I made a very clear plan to deleverage, and I don't really plan on leveraging up again in the future. I realized my mistake, but it's still not necessarily the best idea to just, oh, I've made a mistake, let me correct it right now, and just decimate your portfolio. So I took this pain that I'm feeling and I made a solid plan so that I could still, position myself the best to come out of this correction, out of this market pullback, and still be completely deleveraged by the end of it. And I will be in a much better position executing this plan versus just deleveraging now because I feel bad. I feel in the dumps. It feels bad. I realize I made a mistake by using margin. No, I'm going to not make another mistake. I'm not going to compound my mistake by margining into a crash and then selling out at the bottom. I'm going to ride back out of this as I can see the market is turning around and make a very clear plan of, where I'm going to sell my margin and go to that zero margin. So this is basically that, how many shares I'm going to sell and at what price I'm going to sell at, how much that's going to generate and to pay off all of my margins. So yeah. Just a little bit about my portfolio, things I've been learning recently. I am on a learning journey as well. So, these are real mistakes that I have been making. So hopefully it's been super educational for me to share those mistakes and be honest, talk about how it emotionally made me feel like garbage. And how it made me realize how much longevity plays a role in this and how finances, this portfolio is here to serve me. So, why is it making me feel crap day to day because I'm being silly and using margin instead of having patience and, having, not have to worry about potentially getting zeroed out in these market pullbacks. So big learning lesson for me. I hope it was valuable for you to listen to me talk about my experience with that. I hope it was helpful for you to see my portfolio as well, how I think about position sizing. Even if my modeling says a certain stock has the best returns, it still may not be my biggest position because it's so important to understand qualitatives as well as quantitative. So if you like this video, if you like the honesty, make sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this in the future and have a wonderful, wonderful day.